to the end zone. 50-50 ball. Touchdown, Huskers.
Nebraska wins its 5th national championship.
Giving you an inside look at everything going on in Husker Nation. This is the KLIN Husker Hour.
Kicks and deals the 2-2 pitch. Swing and a miss. Strike 3. Jackson Brockett has the first 9-inning no-hitter for the Nebraska Cornhuskers since 1954, and he did it on his 12th strikeout.
Sunset, got it! Thunderdog, and then one! Exclamation point! Pump the brakes!
Now your hosts, KLIN contributor Cole Stukenholtz and sports director Nate Rohr.
Good Saturday morning. Welcome to another edition of the KLIN Husker Hour. It is a football off-week edition. One more week to rest up and prepare for the final 2-game stretch of the season, the regular season. And we're fully into hoops. Nebraska is up in Sioux Falls at the Pentagon, taking on an old friend from the Big 8 and Big 12 days, Oklahoma. Which had a little bit of basketball. Women's action tomorrow as well. But first, Nate, all good things must come to an end. And 47 straight sets later, and gosh, it feels like it just happened because it was a very, very late session over there. Anytime Nebraska's playing UCLA, apparently you have to start the thing well into the night.
Mm-hmm.
Nebraska volleyball lost a set. I repeat, Nebraska volleyball in the year of our Lord 2025 has lost a Big Ten set. UCLA took the third set. Nebraska won 3-1. The undefeated season is still on. But Nate, how did this happen? What possible witchcraft and UCLA had to do something that nobody figured out. I mean, did Nebraska just blink finally? What is going on here?
Yeah, I really wonder if Danny Busboom Kelly is the person to lead this program. I think they ought to bench Bergen Riley. I think they ought to bench Andy Jackson. I think they ought to bench Rebecca Alec. The sky is falling. The end times are here. Armageddon
Big volleyball
is
overreaction.
Buy your non-perishable foods. No, look, UCLA played well, and they were at the top of their game. I don't know that was Nebraska's A+ game. And, I mean, they've been trotting that product out there for 2 straight months, basically.
Yeah.
UCLA has plenty of talent and put up a really good fight against Nebraska. And Nebraska slipped a little. They weren't perfect. But, it was a little bit of adversity, the type of adversity every team's gonna face in their season, and they were able to get their legs back under them. I am happy with the fact that on a night where they seemed a little bit off, because it wasn't just the third set. I mean, UCLA was very competitive in the early part of the first set, and they were competitive throughout the second set. Nebraska got out to a fairly comfortable early lead. I think it was 7-3 in the second. And that was the point where you said, you know what, they're done. And that didn't happen. So credit to UCLA for hanging in there, for taking the punch, because usually it's that 1-2 punch that lays you on the canvas and keeps you there. They shook it off, and they kept playing pretty well. But the Huskers were able to turn it up just a little bit more in that fourth set. They were able to find that top gear that they've been running at for so long. And so the fact that they were able to tighten things up and finish off that fourth set the way they did, fairly comfortably, fairly dominantly, I am not concerned about where this volleyball team is. They just had a little bump in the road, and it's something that they'll be able to shake off, and I'll be interested to see how they play against USC, because I've got a feeling it's going to be pretty sharp.
Yeah, USC match tomorrow. That's a 2 p.m. first serve out in LA. And with if you're a Big Ten coach and you're just looking for hope, or honestly, if you're any coach in the country at this point, thinking you could have come across Nebraska in the tournament, you're watching, you're pointing to that. You're saying, hey, look, they're human. They bleed.
Yes.
So that part of it exists, right? And we all knew that Nebraska wasn't going to, at least I kind of thought they would eventually drop at least one set, and they have now. But now you've got 5 more matches in Big Ten play. You've got 5 more in the regular season before it's election time, and you see what that bracket looks like. And Nebraska is going to be tested, like you said, against USC. They have the Penn State match. It's the return trip here in Lincoln after Nebraska just eviscerated them out in State College.
Yeah.
And then it'll be time to see what those matchups look like in the bracket, who's on their side, who they see potential Sweet 16, Elite 8, and so on. But at this point, you do know what you have. It's just a matter, as we've been saying, of the individual motivation, the little tweaks to the game, fine tuning. Otherwise, it is business as usual for this squad. And Danny Busboom Kelly has to be pleased with the response in the 4th set.
Yeah,
she probably. I mean, after that second set was only a 2-pointer, right? 25-23. Yep. Maybe could have even seen that 3rd set coming. But the way they bounce back and the way I expect them to play on Sunday, that'll tell us a lot. They're not concerned. This team is full of a very confident group of ladies because they know how good they are. They know how good they can be, and they know over the last couple of post seasons how short they've come up and how close they were to getting that national championship. And this junior class, as we've talked about all year, they're highly motivated to do just that, to flip that in December and get that ring. It's the last thing that they have yet to check the box off. The individual accolades are there, the team championships in the conference, the runs to the Final Four. It's down to one thing. You got 5 more here in the regular season, and then it's time to go get the ring.
Absolutely. And so it's a chance for them to be as sharp as they can be. I think the Big Ten's going to be wrapped up here next week. Nebraska has 2 games lead on Purdue, 2 games up with 5 to go, and in effect 3 games up with 5 to go because they beat them head to head, so they've got the tiebreaker. But yeah, for the Huskers, it's just about staying in the right mental place. It's about balancing sharpness with looseness. And, this team's done such a good job to this point of managing what could be an immense amount of pressure. And still staying hungry, still staying focused, but also having fun with it. And, even last night, even in a match where it felt like Nebraska wasn't playing all that well, you still saw smiles from the players and coaches on the sidelines and on the floor. You still saw them in pretty good spirits. So it's not as if they were tight or they panicked or they were overwhelmed by somebody finally returning fire on them. They just, they understood and they shook it off. And I suspect there'll be a pretty spirited practice session today, and then they'll be locked in and ready to go for USC tomorrow. So not worried about this at all. And though I think there will be sort of a heightened awareness and how does this team come out tomorrow? I suspect they're going to be really sharp. Yep. I suspect they're going to come out and play well. And, USC is the better of the 2 teams they're going to play this weekend. So, whatever marginal motivation you are going to take from your opponent, you're going to take it from tomorrow. And then you add the sharpness aspect of it and wanting to show that last night was a fluke. I think they'll be fine against USC.
Yeah, and the other thing we must mention, previous record around 7,000 for attendance at Pauley Pavilion. They got 10,000 in there. Nebraska, add another one to the list. They're selling out all these venues, coast to coast, the hottest show in town. as Nebraska does get the victory. We talk about it like a loss. Jeez, they won 3-1. It's just what you got to do with this team. And not boring. They were fun to watch. Not boring. And we've got a very not boring show ahead. We're going to break down Nebraska UCLA in football. Obviously, that was a big win for the Huskers out west last weekend. And we'll chat with Matt McMaster from 1620 The Zone a little bit later on as well. And hoops to get to. A busy Saturday here with Nate and Cole. Kenny's got us up on the StreamYard. You can check us out on the KLIN socials, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, the Husker Hour Facebook page as well. We got more coming up right after this here on the KLIN Husker Hour.
Come to the A.T. Thomas Jewelers Diamonds and Destination.
To your inbox with the daily from KLIN. Sign up for giving you a complete review of the Huskers news this week. This is the KLIN Husker Hour on Lincoln's Husker Radio, 1499.3.
Well, before there was the Nebraska UCLA volleyball match tipping off very, very late in the night. There was Nebraska UCLA football kicking off very, very late into the night. That was an 8 p.m. kickoff a few days ago, last Saturday night, and Nebraska came out on top with a new starting quarterback and with a now very, very fully behind by the university and the coaching and the players, Heisman Trophy candidate and Emmett Johnson. And it was the EJ-TJ show on offense in the Rose Bowl, Nate. Nebraska gets the win 28-21. I know you guys had a lot of a breakdown of it all week and then obviously yesterday on Tailgate as well. A few of my thoughts on that one. I mean, it was obvious that they really leaned into the run game and Emmett Johnson and picked their spots, right, with TJ Lateef.
Yep.
Dana Holgerson called a really tight game with that game plan. They were playing ahead of the sticks. They weren't really ever in a second and long, third and long. The one time they were, they obviously had to punt, but they were ahead of the sticks almost the entire game. Played a really clean game, situational football, smart football, not very many penalties at all. The offensive line, the interior especially, came to play and really just kept pounding away at that not very good UCLA front. And look, when you do have all of that in your favor, it can make the game a lot easier for everyone involved. And there's not been a lot of games this season where Nebraska has been able to stay on top of it. The Cincinnati game is one that comes to mind. Nebraska never trailed in that game. I guess they trailed 3-0, but they stayed on top or tied. They had to make plays at the end to close it out. I don't know if they trailed against Northwestern. They were in control of that one for the most part as well. And Northwestern had it tied, and Nebraska had to go win the thing late. But my point is, if you can stay ahead of the sticks and on top in the scoreboard, you're going to find wins against Penn State and Iowa too. Like if you're able to do that, it makes everything else so much easier. I don't know that you would have had the same good feelings about a true freshman quarterback if UCLA got a tip ball and a turnover, and they got the lead early, and then maybe you call the game differently if you're Dana Holgerson. Maybe you get a little tight if you're TJ Lateef, but we didn't have that. That wasn't part of this, the way it played out, and I just think if you are looking to have these last 3 games go well with TJ Lateef, that is the blueprint, and they did exactly what they should have done, and it worked out well. And this is also to say UCLA is terrible at defense. I texted a couple buddies during the game. One of them is a very, very strong TJ Lateef backer. And I said, that's all well and good, but I guarantee you Dylan Raiola is back home thinking, boy, it would have been nice to play against a defense this bad. So
yeah, no doubt.
Not just the TJ Lateef is good at football. He clearly is. It's that UCLA was not a true test. He's going to get a test next week against Penn State in terms of talent, and we'll see how motivated they are. Penn State's been a very interesting team to watch. Let's say that. And Iowa will be talented and motivated on defense to wrap up the regular season as well. So we'll see how all that goes, but a very good first step for the true freshman quarterback.
Yeah, there's lots to like about what TJ Lateef did, and I came out on the Friday Husker tailgate as a TJ Lateef skeptic, and I remain so because that UCLA defense was terrible. There's just no other way to say it. I mean, that was maybe the 3rd weakest defense Nebraska's faced this year.
Yeah.
So Lateef has faced the worst, Houston Christian, the 2nd worst, Akron, and the 3rd worst, UCLA. And he's looked good. What do you know? You face a crummy defense, you look pretty good. Now, there were things that I think are transferable. It looked like there was a definitiveness, a clarity, a conviction with what he was doing as far as running the offense. The throws were quick and decisive. The decisions were very sharp. But, like you said, Dana Holgerson had a pretty tight hold on the reins in that game. And we've criticized Holgerson on occasion because sometimes he gets a little deep in his bag. The Minnesota game. But he understood, look, I've got a freshman quarterback. I've got a running back that's really good. I'm facing a defense that has a lot of trouble stopping the run. Let's run the ball. And what do you know? It worked out. I said run the ball guy had been training for that game his whole life, and his dreams came true. So the game plan worked against UCLA. How is that going to transfer against Penn State, who's a whole lot better against the run? And, all the things you do to simplify, it felt like even the pass game was simplified. I'm sure Matt will have the stat, Matt McMaster, when we have him on here later. But TJ Lateef's average target was 5 yards downfield. Yeah. I mean, and hey, that's exactly what it should have been. That's exactly where it was going to be. But you can bet definitely Iowa and probably Penn State knows that too. And will lock in and man up and crowd the box and say, okay, can you throw it over our heads? We don't think you can. And so what's the next move to it? So, I know there's a segment of this fan base who's seen all the faults in Dylan Raiola the last 20-some starts. And, there's 20 games where he's had to go out and play. And good, bad, great, disappointing, whatever. We've had 20 games to look at him. And this fan base, on occasion, is guilty of eating its young. I mean, there's no other way to say it. They break things down to the minute levels. They've done that with Raiola, I think, which is not to say there aren't things to improve, but TJ Lateef just doesn't have that length of tape that Raiola does for people to break down and find fault in. And, the next 2 games are going to tell the tale. I will say this, though. What we saw from Lateef and what we saw with the offense under Lateef, I hope Dylan Raiola takes some notes. And I hope Dana Holgerson takes some notes, because it feels like they have given Dylan Raiola so much control, so many options on every pass play, that sort of thing. He's paralyzed by analysis. And it would help him, I think, a little bit to simplify this offense, to simplify the pass game a little bit, because they've touted his football IQ and how smart he is and how able he is to make all the decisions at the line. But I just think that he's suffered from the fact that he's back there thinking instead of playing, and by the time he comes up with the right answer, somebody's hitting him.
Yeah, no, you're right, and there are some lessons that he could take. There are a couple of things at work here. Number one, there's this phenomenon in sports, and you see it all the time, where if a star player goes out, everybody the first instinct is to say, "Oh boy, this is not going to go well." And then when the game actually happens, you see the team play well. Everybody raises their game a little bit more. Right? They pick up the slack. They're more focused. Whatever that is, that can happen. It happens all the time. And I think that was certainly on display against UCLA. Another thing, just in terms of how fans think about this, and especially a certain segment of fans who's been calling for Latif because he can run and Raiola can't. The favorite player on every football team, every bad football team or mediocre football team or team that's not in the playoff discussion or what have you, the favorite player is always the backup quarterback. He's never thrown an interception. He's never lost a game. There's the known of Dylan Raiola, and people just have a tendency to look at the bad and not the good. And there's not a bad to talk about with TJ Latif. Latif hadn't done any of that stuff, and he still hasn't, to his credit. But there's only a very, very small sample size there. And I've been critical of Dylan Raiola. I really have. You can look at my Husker Max stuff from last year and this year. I'm not a Dylan Raiola homer or PR person, but in defense of Dylan Raiola, I mean, I've had a particular group that's said to me Dylan Raiola doesn't give Nebraska as good a chance to win as pick a mobile quarterback, and TJ Latif is the one on the roster. Just the fact that a mobile quarterback exists would be better than what Dylan Raiola is. Or somebody's told me that Dylan Raiola is the least mobile quarterback Nebraska has had, and I immediately thought of Tanner Lee, and I'm like, no, I don't think that's true. Plus the things we've said about UCLA's defense, and it's just Dylan Raiola does have some things that he could improve upon. There are parts of his game that did hold Nebraska back to a certain extent this season. I think the Minnesota game is first for me as far as those sacks. We talked about it. 9 sacks in that game, 5 or 6 are on him. He needs to get rid of the ball. He needs to make different decisions. We've had that discussion. But for all of the things that people complain about with Dylan Raiola, you don't win a couple of the games that Nebraska's been in without Dylan Raiola. He's had game-winning drives. He's had game-winning drive on the road at Maryland. Yeah. And so there are a lot of different things that you can say about both of these quarterbacks. As far as who gives Nebraska the best chance to win, I think at this point in their careers, I think it's unquestionably still Dylan Raiola. And next year, if they're both on the roster, which, I mean, in this day and age, I don't know that anybody should expect them to be, but if they're both on the roster, we can have that discussion in March, April, May. We can have that discussion in July and August leading into the season. But Dylan Raiola is QB1 on this team for a reason, and it's for a lot of reasons at that. So there's a certain revisionist history that's going to come out here, especially if Latif goes and ends up 3-0 at the end of the season. Things are really going to ramp up with that argument. But at this point, let's just see how he does at Penn State, and let's see how he does against Iowa, and then we can all reconvene here the Saturday after Thanksgiving and say, okay, now we know what we have. Because right now, you still really don't know what you have in TJ.
No, and he's not faced a defense that can take Emmett Johnson away, and that's another dynamic in all of this because this discussion. We know TJ Lateef is starting the last 3 games this season. He's starting the Penn State game, the Iowa game, the bowl game, unless he gets hurt. But the whole discussion is centered on 2026. Okay, how good a quarterback is TJ Lateef without an All-American running back?
Yeah.
And how much does his running threat matter if he doesn't have Emmett Johnson sitting there? And for all the great things that happened in the UCLA game, the thing that didn't happen, for better or worse, is we never saw either of the other 2 running backs. And a lot of that was it was a low snap game, and Emmett Johnson was rolling and getting stronger. Don't take carries away from Emmett Johnson, for God's sakes. But, we're all starting to come to the realization that Emmett Johnson is a pro running back next year.
Yeah.
He's down to his last 8 quarters as a Husker. If he is on this roster next year, I will be astonished because and it'll cost a lot of money, and I'd still be surprised because you saw Amir Abdullah this week come out and say, "Man, I wish I would have taken." Amir Abdullah's had a good pro career. He's had a decade-long pro career. And even he said, I wish I would have gone to the league 1 year early and had those carries in the National Football League. Like, the shelf life for running backs is brief. And so you better, the moment it looks like you can go, you go. And so it will take a highly competitive NIL package for him to even consider it. And look, if he goes, tip your cap because he's given what he's given to this program. But all that to say for this discussion, who's going to be the running threat next year for Nebraska? How much are you going to want a running quarterback who isn't as good a thrower when you're going to be relying on throwing the football to move the ball down the field?
Yeah, I would go so far as to say, Nate, I don't think Nebraska's leading rusher in 2026 is on the roster right now.
Oh, I think I would be willing to take that to the bank.
Yeah,
I would agree with that wholeheartedly.
You just don't have guys who have had the experience or have shown the skill set if they've been on the field. And hey, maybe it is somebody who's on the roster. I just don't see it. I think that they're going to have to really go out in the transfer portal and hit that position hard. But we shall see. That's a discussion for another day. Nebraska will have Penn State next Saturday. We're going to continue the football discussion when Matt McMaster joins us in a little bit. But next, we're going to get into some hoops. Nebraska basketball. The men and the women, they're both in action this weekend. They both got 3 games under their belt. So we'll chat about what we've seen so far. And, hey, it's always a good week when you talk about the red team beating up on the blue team, too. So
damn right.
That's coming up as well. Plenty more with Nate and Cole here on KLIN Husker Hour. Stay with us.
This holiday
Husker football, basketball, baseball, and beyond. This is the KLIN Husker Hour on 1490.
Right now, at this very moment, November 15th, 2025, Nate, the longest win streak in men's college basketball, your Nebraska Cornhuskers.
Woo!
7 games in a row. Of course, you go back to the crown, the Cale Jacobson moment. Nebraska won all 4 of those, and then they've won 3 this year. It is the longest win streak in the nation, and it belongs right here in Lincoln. They're putting it on the line up at the Pentagon today against Oklahoma. But hey, put that on your resume, and nobody can ever take that away from you. It would be also the longest win streak. Longest active win streak right now is 7, and it would give Nebraska their longest win streak if they win over Oklahoma since they won 11 straight games in the 2010-2011 season. So they can make it 8. It would be their longest win streak as a program in 14 seasons. So a lot on the line up there, and taking on an old friend as well.
Yeah, and look, this is a step up in competition. First 3 games, Nebraska was able to get away with some stuff. They got off to slow starts. There were points where they didn't shoot very well. They kind of sleepwalked at the end of the last game. So it's not like the Huskers are playing their best ball right now, but we have also seen flashes of what they can be. This offense just runs great, just runs better with McMaster in it, with his ability to kick the ball out. And, last year it was just get Bryce the ball and let him go nuts. But this year there are more options. Price Sandfort's asserted himself pretty early on this year. You feel like Sejan's going to heat up from behind the arc at some point. Of course, Mast is always an option, always a really good shooter, can do pretty much what you need him to do, a pretty good scorer, I should say. So, I mean, there are a lot of places you can go with the ball. The question is, who's going to be hot, who's not in this game? It worries me a little bit that Oklahoma is as good a rebounding team as they are. They're one of the best rebounding teams in the country in the early going. And I don't know if Nebraska can match that physicality and strength at this point. So it comes down to making shots for the Huskers this year, and that's kind of a hit or miss thing. I mean, there are times where even great shooting teams will come and go with their shooting touch, and I think this is a better shooting team than it has been. Again, through the whole roster, there's not a Keisei Tolmanaga on there, but there are days where you have it and there are days where you don't, and you're hopeful that today against Oklahoma is a day where you have it, because if it's not, if you have to play sausage ball, if you have to bang, I don't like their chances.
Yeah, you mentioned whether the shots need to go in, and obviously this team, more than last year, maybe even more than 2 years ago, Nebraska made the NCAA tournament. Huskers are going to put up some threes. So far in the 3 games, they've had 32, 32, and 34 3-point attempts. That's a lot. And they have to Fred Hoiberg's credit, they've got a roster full of guys across the board who can hit those threes. This is not a team like last year where you have a couple of guys that are in the middle that are exclusively paint players and are not going to really shoot the three. Even your big guys in Rink Mass and Berkay, those guys are going to be able to shoot the ball pretty well. Really only Oogie is the one guy that comes to mind on the roster that I think will play, and Leo Curtis too, who will not really be a factor from beyond the arc, but they do have a lot of depth at that position, and just in terms of being able to put up shots. So whether it's getting Price Sandfort going, maybe you do get Jamarcus Lawrence a couple of looks early, and Sam Hoiberg's shown he's capable as well at times. And I think the X factor here is the guy we've kind of been talking about as the X factor coming into this season is Braden Frager. If you can get that kind of play early on, 20 minutes and 13 points per game so far through 3 games. If you can get that type of production out of him against the Power 4 competition that you'll play, against a Creighton who is not in a Power 4 conference, sorry, Big East. If you can get that kind of production from a redshirt freshman who basically was a high school senior who decided to take his senior season as an intern in Nebraska basketball's facilities, and if he just comes out the gates and is a weapon for you, that is huge. So they do need to hit shots, and you mentioned the physicality of Oklahoma. Rebounding is going to be a big thing, and I think more than that in this game. What's Nebraska's assist to turnover ratio? If you are taking care of the ball, if you're not giving Oklahoma more possessions, and not just from them getting their own offensive rebounds or stealing your defensive rebounds and not giving you second chances, it's can you take care of it? Avoid giving up bad pass turnovers. Avoid getting the ball stolen from you, and making sure that you are making that extra pass. Keep the ball moving around. And I don't think they're going to have a problem with that just through the early going, but they also, like you mentioned, are taking that step up in competition. So we'll see how that goes. As for the women, Nebraska is back in action again. They're taking on North Dakota State. That game is tomorrow. You'll hear that one over on 105.3 The Bone. It's up in Sioux Falls as well. And after coming off of a game in which they hit a 3-quarter court right at the halftime buzzer shot against Creighton to take a 3-touchdown lead against the school that doesn't have a football team and dominate the Blue Jays. There's a lot to like about Amy Williams' team going right now. Britt Prince has clearly taken the next step in her game. And once you get Natalie Potts back and going, this team is going to be really, really tough. But as it stands right now, they're going to be a very difficult team to stop. There's a few matchups in the Big Ten that's going to give them a lot of problems, but otherwise, they've got the tournament set in their sights again this year.
Yeah, this is a team that is going to the NCAA tournament if it keeps playing well, and maybe your expectations for them dialed back a little bit with the graduation of Alexis Markowski, and she was a great player and so important to this team the last 4 years. But this is a program that I hope people appreciate how good they've been and how good they are. I mean, the recruiting class that Amy brought in this week was really, really good. So, I mean, they're going to be on the stage for a while. And so Amy Williams has done a really nice job in building this program. And you're hopeful that it leads to a deep NCAA run here soon, because I think that's kind of the one thing that's missing right now. They've won a game or two in the NCAA here and there under her, but a lot of things to like about what Nebraska women's hoops is doing and what they will do. And Britt Prince is a star, flat out. I mean, she's a high-level player right now. 4 games into her sophomore year? I mean, this is somebody that 3 games into her sophomore year. I mean, this is somebody you can build around, and they already have, and they're going to continue to do so. And so I think the stock, if you were going to put your money in a Nebraska sports program, you could do a whole lot worse than put it in Nebraska women's hoops.
Yeah, Britt Prince through those 3 games, 20 points per game. She's leading the team in multiple categories. And you've also got Jessica Petrie with 14 per game, Bozan and Claire Johnson both with 11 apiece, Callan Hake with 10, balance behind Britt Prince. And look, you mentioned the recruiting class, 5-star forward and 2 4-star guards. Yeah. Amy Williams is just cleaning up. She's got this program humming, and it's obvious on the floor as well, as they dominated Creighton in their last matchup. So that is a quick look at women's and men's hoops. Again, the men are in action today. You can hear that one right here on KLIN. It is a 5 o'clock pregame and then 6 o'clock tip-off up in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. You'll hear KP on the mic with Mr. Smith as well. Yeah, Jeff Smith is the new play-by-play man, and they've
color
been
man.
Color man. Yeah, they've been getting things going. It's good to hear with a little bit of a new voice, but the rapport seems good. So as you mentioned, the real artists are on the radio.
Damn right.
Tune into KP for that one later tonight, and then the women in action tomorrow. Okay, when we come back, we will get to Matt McMaster from 1620 The Zone. He'll join us to chat about all things Huskers right after this here on the KLIN Husker Hour.
Savings event of the year. Menards, 11% rebate ends Thanksgiving Day. Save big money on everything you need for any project. We've got something for everyone. Homeowners, contractors, DIYers, the kids, and even grandma. Hurry, Menards 11% rebate ends Thanksgiving Day.
Save big money at Menards.
11% mail-in rebate is a merchandise credit check. Good on future in-store purchases. See menards.com for details.
You can keep this radio station on your presets, but we'll keep the volume. This is 105.3 The Bone, Lincoln's real rock. From the 80s to the 2010s, from the anthems to the classics, to the songs that changed music as we know it. Turn it on and turn it up. Rockin' Broadcast House. We are 105.3 The Bone, Lincoln's real rock.
This is the time of the year most of us are checking off our holiday gift list. Identity thieves have lists too, and your personal information might be on that list. Protect your identity with LifeLock. LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points every single second and alerts you to the threats you could miss yourself. If your identity is stolen, your own U.S.-based restoration specialist is going to work to fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Make this season about joy, not identity theft, with LifeLock. Save up to 40% off your first year at LifeLock.com with the promo code BECK. Terms apply.
Guys, love buying your favorite shirts on sale? You're in luck. Untuckit's wrinkle-free styles are on sale now for just $59. These are the shirts that made Untuckit famous, made with 100% premium cotton and a wrinkle-free finish. These best-selling shirts and polos come out of the dryer crease-free and ready to wear. They're perfect for the office, the weekend, and beyond. Stock up now with wrinkle-free shirts from just $59 only at Untuckit.com and 80 stores. Untuckit, shirts designed to be worn untucked.
Talking with current and former Huskers and those that cover the Big Red. This is the KLIN Husker Hour on Lincoln's Husker Radio, 1400 KLIN.
Always a treat. We can welcome back an old friend, former co-host here on Husker Hour from Gary and Matt, 6 to 10 a.m., 1620 The Zone in Omaha. It's Matt McMaster. Matt, good morning.
Boys, how are we?
We're doing great. Even better for you. Look at your Bears. Your Bears have a better record than our Chiefs right now. What are you doing with yourself?
Don't talk about it. Don't talk about it. Don't say a word. Nobody needs to know. All right? I'm just trying to skate by. You know, we're just the little Bears. All right, we're the sad little Bears. Don't take us seriously. Don't scout for us. We're not a threat. Nobody talk about it. Okay? Nobody say a word. Don't say a word about the Bears.
All right. Well, we will keep it on the down low. We're only 9 games in, but hey, maybe after game 10, things will blow up, just like they did for Emmett Johnson and his Heisman candidacy. Right? You have the big push here in the bye week to get everybody really fired up about EJ and get him to New York. I think that's the play for Emmett Johnson. By the way, I don't think he's going to win this thing, but I don't think it's impossible that he gets an invite to New York if things go really well in these next 2 games. Nebraska gets wins and he's the centerpiece. How much of a factor do you put the performance and the skill set of Emmett Johnson into just how well that game went for TJ Lateef in his first action as the starter for Nebraska?
I love what happened against UCLA because I think it was an incredible example of Daniel Holgerson and Matt Rule understanding how pieces complement pieces. I think that they did a great job of using the skill set of Emmett Johnson to make TJ Lateef do better. And I think that they did a great job of using the skill set of Dane Key to have TJ Lateef play better. You know, I think they knew what they had in everybody else, and they knew what they had in TJ. And it was, I thought it was Dana's best game. I called it a symphony. It was beautiful in just how the sequence of plays followed one another. Everything made sense. Everything kept UCLA on their toes. I think that there were times in Dana's play calling with Dylan where it would get clunky. It didn't, nothing complemented one another. I think the Minnesota game you could have sat back and you're like, all right, they're going to throw the ball here. All right, they'll probably run the ball here. Oh, probably going to be a screen here. That didn't happen at all against UCLA. So I think they did a great job of understanding, hey, they got a great back that just keeps getting better. I mean, we gotta face the fact here, boys. Like, Emmett Johnson, I didn't think he would have this season even after the Cincinnati game. I didn't think he would have this season after the Michigan game. And he came out of that bye after Michigan in that MSU game, and he just looked better, and he just looked faster. And what if he does it again? You know, what if he has this bye week and he comes out against Penn State and he looks even faster and more slippery and more agile than he has in the past? I mean, that would be a whole other level we'd be talking about. So I think that Dana and staff did a great job of taking advantage of team skills, making TJ look great, and he looked great.
You talk about Dana Holgorsen adjusting his play calling to the relative skills of TJ Lateef and especially to the presence and ability of Emmett Johnson. Do you think there's a lesson there if and when Dylan Raiola comes back to the starting quarterback job? Because it's felt like he's suffered paralysis by analysis. He has too many options, too much on him in terms of checks at the line, that sort of thing. Do you think that if we see Dylan Raiola as the starting quarterback first game of 2026, maybe there's some carry through to that game to try and make things a little easier for him?
It's a great question, Nate. It's a phenomenal question. It's the question. You know, and I think it's great analysis, and I see the same thing. I don't think that we're doing when we talk about complementary play calling and using the skills of the quarterback, using the skills of everybody else to help the quarterback. I don't think they were doing that, with Dylan, and I don't think they were helping Dylan with having the offensive line is playing better now, but when Dylan was the quarterback, they weren't, and they still were putting Dylan with a not well-performing offensive line in bad situations. And, Dane Key was using the middle of the field in that UCLA game. Why did he stop doing that when Dylan was playing? Why weren't those slants available when Dylan was in the game? Why? I think you're spot on in the fact that I don't think what they were doing, what they were calling in the game was complementing what Dylan did well. And I also think, though, too, that, and here's what I'm referring to, Nate. Dylan is not fast enough. And when you drop him back in the pocket and you put him and you don't get ahead of the stick and you put him in obvious passing situations, you put him in danger. Yeah. Okay? And I think they put him in danger too much. Now, at the same time, though, it is on Dylan to get faster and more athletic and more mobile in the offseason. It's a two-way street. You can't put him in those situations, but Dylan actually has to get faster and he has to get better. So I think that's what needs to be the focus. And then I think you brought up there's another part of your question I was about to say, but I think that's the main part, right? They put him in some dangerous situations, and they need to go back and look at that tape and make sure they don't do that again. But he also needs to do a better job of getting himself out of those dangerous situations. Here's what I was going to say. Great line by you. Analysis by paralysis, or paralysis by analysis. Here's my question to you guys. Maybe you can think about this. Is the genie out of the bottle? Can you tell Dylan, hey, we're going to take away some of your freedom? How's he going to feel by that? How's he going to feel about that? That you say, hey, we don't trust you as much to make the checks as maybe we thought. Because I don't think us as media and fans can really look at the tape and say, oh, he checked into this and checked into that. And this was unsuccessful and that was unsuccessful. That's all on them. They got to analyze that. They got to see, hey, is he checking into good stuff or bad stuff? And they got to recognize, hey, we got to take something. Maybe we have to pull some things back. But can you do that? Does that affect his confidence? That's something that they got to decide.
Matt McMaster from 1620 The Zone joining us here on Husker Hour. And the part of the question you posed to us and how they maybe the staff can have that conversation with Dylan, I think the trade-off for Dylan is, hey, we think if we do this, we pull some of these things out of your bucket, We take some of this off your plate. The trade-off is we will be more likely to win more games. Ultimately, I think that's a trade that Dylan would want. I get him wanting to showcase his abilities for the next level, right? The NFL is going to want to see him be able to make these checks at the line. They want to see him, calling the defense out at the line and adjusting the protection and adjusting the routes and all this stuff, right? That's all well and good. But ultimately, he's had that on his plate here in this sophomore season. Next year, if you pose that to him, hey, you're not going to do this, you're not going to do this, but we're going to win more games because of it. If they sell that to him and he buys into that, I think that is a trade that he would 100% make.
I would hope. I would hope he take that. I hope he would take that.
Are you hesitant to think that he would?
I don't know. That's one of those things where it's like I don't know the kid.
Yeah.
And I've never talked to him. And I once again you would think. I don't think there's let me frame it this way, Cole. I don't think there's anything that Dylan Raiola has ever said to make me believe that he doesn't just want to win football games.
Yeah.
That he just doesn't want to bring Nebraska back to glory. I mean, that's why he committed here in the first place, right? If he wanted, this journey hasn't just been about winning games. It's about restoring the quote unquote glory Nebraska used to have, right? So if you gave him the option of, hey, maybe you won't make the progressions that you were hoping or make the impression that you might be hoping to make NFL scouts in this facet, but hey, you accomplishing and you winning games will allow them to see you, do it in another way. Yeah, I think you could pitch that off. I mean, I look at it from a more confidence perspective, right? If you were to tell me, hey, Matt, we're going to give you these responsibilities because we really believe in you and we think you're great and you're doing this, and then you took some of those responsibilities away, no matter how you framed it, I'm not going to feel great about it, right?
Right.
At the same time, this is a hypothetical combo where maybe he is making the right checks. Maybe that isn't the problem. Maybe he isn't confused at the line. Maybe he is. You know what I'm saying? That's just something that we're not fully going to know. But I think to go back to Nick's point, it's always going to come down to trust your eyes, and my eyes tell me that they didn't do the things that complemented Dylan the best that they could have. And they did it with TJ. And I hope that these 3 games and seeing how they frame this game plan and seeing how TJ performs makes them take a step back and say, okay, how can we take what we learned from calling things with our backup quarterback and turn it into calling things with our starting quarterback?
Yeah, it's a fascinating discussion that we'll see play out over the next 2 games, and then obviously how things go in the off season, and you'll be able to hear that conversation continue over on 1620 The Zone, 6 to 10 a.m. Monday through Friday. Matt McMaster with Gary Sharp over on Gary and Matt. Matt, it is always a pleasure. Good luck to your Bears, and hey, maybe we'll see those plucky, quiet, sneak up on you Bears in the Super Bowl. Who knows?
Nobody talks about them. Nobody talks about them.
Nothing to see here. Nothing to see here.
Nothing to see. We're just going to win 11 games, be unassuming.
Wow.
Nothing to see here.
All right. Well, we'll see. Thanks a lot for the time, and we'll talk again soon.
You guys are the best. Look forward to talking to you in the future. See you soon. All right.
All right.
Sounds good. See you, Matt.
Matt McMaster in those Bears just quietly doing their thing over here. Pay no mind. All right, Nate and I are going to be back, wrap things up. We will get you ready for the weekend. Speaking of NFL, nice little tasty little matchup over in Denver. The Chiefs. How about that one, Nate?
Let's go. Chiefs.
We'll see what we think about that as well. Husker hoops today, tomorrow, the men and the women. We got volleyball again in action out west. We'll get you ready right after this here on the KLIN Husker Hour.
You're listening to the KLIN Husker Hour. Executive Travel Talk is next on 1499.3 KLIN.
Way to win. Your Saturday morning source for everything Huskers is right here. You're listening to the KLIN Husker Hour on Lincoln's Husker Radio, 1499.3 KLIN.
Big thanks to Matt McMaster down the Dylan TJ dynamic. If you missed any of that, make sure you're checking out the podcast page at KLIN.com. You can get subscribed to that feed in Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you get your podcasts. We appreciate it. However you listen and catch up with the show. All right, Nate, we've got men's and women's hoops. We've got volleyball again. Volleyball looking to get back to their sweeping ways. They're going to have to do it again on the road. That's the USC matchup. That matchup you will be able to hear. You'll be able to hear tomorrow, 2:00 over on B107.3. The men in action tonight, 6:00 at the Pentagon, right here on KLIN, 5:00 pregame. And then the women are tomorrow against North Dakota State on 105 The Bone. That one's a 11:30 pregame and noon tip-off. Big weekend.
Yep, Huskers went undefeated last weekend. Can they do it this weekend? It's going to be a lot more challenging.
That's right. And Chiefs Broncos, Andy Reid after the bye. It's look, Chiefs are winning this game.
Yeah.
I'm telling you right now.
Broncos are frauds.
Let's hope. Let's hope. All right, that's going to do it for us. Thanks to Nate. Thanks to Kenny Larrabee getting us up on the StreamYard. And thanks to Matt McMaster. I'm Cole Stukenholtz. We'll be back next Saturday with a brand new edition of the KLIN Husker Hour. Maybe. We don't even know when the Penn State game is. If it's 11 a.m., we won't see you. But hopefully we will. Go Big Red.